Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about closing out a call inside SWRe and confirming that the credit card did go through if you are running live credit card processing out in the field. In addition, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the reporting features inside of PayFlow Pro, which is the gateway that SWRemote uses to process its credit cards. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a call that was run out in the field where a credit card was taken. So I go ahead and I'm going to click on the call and open it up inside SWRe. So I have the call here in front of me. The next thing I'm going to do is open up the invoice of the call as well. So I can take a little bit of information here on the invoice. So I see that the invoice was run out in the field. I see that there's a payment right here. And I see that that means that there's a net balance of 0. So I see that a payment was actually applied to this job. I can go click the Apply Payments button to view the payment. And upon viewing the payment, I'm going to see that there is now a credit card reference number there and a payment authorization screen. This payment authorization right here. This is how I know that this card was indeed run by the PayFlow Pro process and a live credit card transaction was run out in the field. I see that payment authorization. I know that the credit card was run out in the field. All I simply do is click close and I'm done here. That payment is applied. When I'm ready to, I can actually go through and post this invoice, and that payment will then show up on the customer's account, and it'll be applied to this invoice as an applied payment. So once I see that authorization number there, I know that the payment was applied to the invoice. All right, so now that we have a payment, I want to actually go open up the PayFlow Pro gateway and take a look at some of the information that's in the payment. So I'm going to open up the email that should have been sent out to you. In this email, you're going to see a little bit of information. First off, you're going to have the web address, which is the manager.paypal web address in here. I'm going to open up this web address here, and this is how I log in to view all of the transactions that were run by the devices using the live credit card processing. In the email, you will have your login credentials as well. So you have your partner. So you can go ahead and get the partner and put it inside here. You also go ahead and have your merchant name. So right for me, here's my merchant name. And then you have the password that was created for you. This is a temporary password that would be put in there, but this password can be changed at a later date, but right now for this demonstration, we're just going to use the password that was created inside here. Okay, I copy the password out of the email and I paste it in here and I click log on. And this will actually log me into the PayPal manager. Okay, so I have now logged in and I can now begin to view some reports and some of the different reporting information I can view on the transactions that were run out in the field. The first thing I'm going to do is actually hit the reports button. And inside here, there's going to be a couple of different reports you can run. Notably, there would be the daily activity report and the batch ID report. These are two that are typically run out in the field on a daily basis here so that you can reconcile your credit card transactions. Okay, so with these, the first one we're going to open up is the daily activity. So I'm going to click the daily activity report, and it's going to open up a screen where I can select some parameters for this daily activity. For me, I want to take a look at the transactions that I ran on a few days ago. So I'm going to go back to the 20th. I can select the time zone for what time zone I'm in. And I can do full details, a summary report, whatever it may be. I can even sort by amount, by card type, by transaction time, any of the different things I would want to do. Transaction time will actually, allow you to see the transactions as when they happen during the day. So I'm going to change it to that, and I'm going to go ahead and click Run Report. And this is going to open up a kind of an overview of all the transactions that were run that day. So here I have a couple of the transactions that I did. You'll see these $1 transactions. I went through and did a dollar transaction on the device. I see it right here. So what you're also going to notice is back inside SWRe where we just were, on the payment, you'll see that there is a payment reference number right here, the VTYA number right there. Well, if back inside PayFlow, when I open up this transaction, you're going to see the same VTYA number right here. That's how you can link up those transactions. On top of that, you can actually click on the transaction here, and you will see some information about the transaction. Another thing you're going to take a look at would be the purchase order number. The purchase order number and the invoice number are the same thing. So the purchase order number you're seeing in PayPal right here is also the invoice number here inside SWRe21. So you'll see the invoice number right up there. So that's how those two things would link. You can also link it with the last four of the card as well. So I see that that's 4358 inside SWRe. And if I go back into PayPal, I see that the last four of the credit card were 4358 as well. Well, that's how I can tell that these transactions went through. And a little bit about it, each one of these transactions will have some information here. So each transaction will have an authorization and a capture. The way the credit card processing works out in the field is a card is authorized when you swipe it. So the card would be authorized at the payment screen, which would be step 5 as you're running through the device. And ultimately, the card is then captured at the end of the job, which would be the between step 6 and step 7 there. That is when a card would go through and be captured. So you'll see that each transaction here would have an authorization and a capture. And again, I have an authorization and a capture. So those are the two different transactions that were run out in the field. Now, if I go back into SWRe, you'll see that I have my one job here that was run through that we were just taking a look at, and then I have my second job here too. And this one, if I were to go through and open the invoice, you would see that this one also needs to be saved, and then I can click the Apply Payments. We'll have a payment authorization number right there, and back inside PayFlow, it would match up to the payment authorization number that is right here as well. So you'll see that that's how they link. So you can tell that both these transactions went through successfully. We had the authorization and the capture, the authorization and the capture. Okay, so that's how you can check on a daily basis that the transactions were all run successfully. The next report you may want to take a look at would be the batch ID report. Nightly, your transactions are going to batch automatically to your bank account right here from inside of PayPal through your processor. So in order to double check what was batched into your bank account, we can run a batch ID report here inside PayPal. So now you logged in here and you can select the parameters for where you want to set the batch ID report. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and select the dates that those transactions were run, so the 20th and the 21st here, because the cards batch overnight. So it could happen at 1 in the morning, it could happen at 11 p.m. It really depends on what your processor has set up as a batch time. So for me, I'm going to run it here. I'm going to select my time zone for Eastern here, so I know the time. And then I can also go through and select the report type. Now with the report type, you can do a batch summary or a batch summary by card type. If you break it out by card type, it will show each batch for the individual card types. So for example, if you had a batch that was MasterCards and Visas and American Express, it would break those out separately. This is good for the reconciliation process because sometimes card types such as American Express or Discover may take an extra day or two until they batch into your bank account. And again, that's all dependent on your processor, but I would recommend doing the summary by card type. It might make it a little clearer for the reconciliation process. And at this point, you go ahead and click Run Report. And it's going to open up all the different batches that are on file in your account here. So for me, I have a batch here that went through at 10:17 p.m. on the 19th and one that went at 10:40 on the 20th. You'll notice that the one on 10:40 is for $2. That would be those two transactions. So I can go ahead and click on the batch ID here, and it's going to open up the two transactions that were batched. So I see that the delayed capture on the 20th here and the other delayed capture on the 20th here for $1 went through. I can even click on the transaction ID right here and open it up. I can confirm that it was indeed this invoice number right here because it has the purchase order number. So I can go back inside SWRe, confirm that it's the right transaction. This will then enable you to then go back inside and move over all of your undeposited funds to deposited funds while you're going through and reconciling transactions. So you can go through on a transaction by transaction basis there. So I got the one done, and then I would go down and click on this one, and I would get that one done. And this is how I show that the transactions indeed batched and I can match them up to deposits that show up in my bank account. And once I'm done, I come back here to the main screen, and that's how I take a look at batches. So those are basically the two reports that you need to focus on, the batch ID and the daily activity. Daily activity will allow you to see each individual transaction that goes through, and batch ID will allow you to see the batches nightly that go through. And that's how you would go through and reconcile your credit cards.